Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Geoff Grant. For more than 25 years, Geoff has experienced caregiving firsthand, first supporting his mother and later his wife, Karen. Through those experiences, he gained a deep understanding of the emotional, physical, and often unseen realities of caregivers and what they face every day. Today, Jeff advocates for caregivers and works to, ensure they are supported, valued, and equipped because when caregivers are strengthened, everyone benefits. Jeff, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me. Um, Hello to all your viewers, and I look forward to our conversation.
All right, wow. Okay, so Jeff, can you take us back to, when you were much more younger, right? So, what kind of person were you in your 20s, right? And what mattered most to you then?
Well, as a person in my 20s, I don't know, I had a lot of expectations about how life would go, um, a
Mm-hmm.
lot more, I don't know, naive, a little more carefree. Um, I had just graduated from college and, um, I wasn't, I was I had a different perspective of how life was going to be. I thought it was going to be, just I had lost my dad, so I had a little experience, a little shock before I graduated college. Sorry, college, and I was a little shaken up by the death of my father, but I just thought life was going to go a certain way, and it turns out it took a left turn. It took a hard
Wow.
left turn. Yeah,
All right. I mean, everybody thinks that way, right? We all have an expectation when it comes to life, but life will always life. That's what they say.
yeah,
Life
exactly.
will always show you that it's life, basically. So anything could happen. And what lessons about relationships and responsibilities did your younger self learn the hard way, basically?
Well, my it wasn't well. My mother, when my mother had her stroke, and I had to take care of her with my brother, it was like she took care of me and raised me and bathed me and everything else when I was when I was born, and um, so I felt a responsibility to do the same for her. I felt like she raised me, she took care of me, she fed me, clothed me, bathed me. Now it's my turn. And that was, no one ever asked me to be a caregiver. I was sort of, most often you're, forced into the role, which I dislike even today. We're sort of forced into the role. We're not asked. Um, but it wasn't looking back, it was an honor to do that for her. So it was sort of like, yeah, that's what I would say. It was an honor and a privilege to do for her what she did for me.
Hmm. Wow. Oh, okay. So yes, Jeff. First of all, I think the theme of caregiving is quite sensitive, right?
Yes,
Because
very.
yeah, it is sensitive, and people don't know because they just hear caregiving and they feel like it is just to take care of someone. They do not know it's actually deeper than that because
Much deeper.
it is much deeper. I've had a guest one time, I cannot remember the name. He was also a caregiver. He spoke about the emotional aspect of caregiving. And
Yeah.
oh, he opened my eyes to a whole lot, right? And I
Yeah.
just think I never saw it that way, but he did open my eyes to a lot. So I want us to talk about caregiving, basically. So what has it been like for you? What has the journey been like for you, both emotionally, physically, and even spiritually too? I mean, it goes that deep, right? So,
It goes that deep, yes. Um, it's been, well, taking care of my mother, it was very dysfunctional. It wasn't like I knew I didn't know what I was doing. I just thought that, I would be like watching her and doing a few things. I really didn't know like how much it would affect me emotionally. And I was very, kind of like a little immature at the time, a little emotionally immature at the time. So, a lot, there was no self care, whatever that means. There was no self care going on. And it was just sort of like get through the day. Like I would care for my mother during the day. My brother would care for my mother during the night. And, it was sort of like, let's get through this. But after my mother had passed and I married my wife and my wife got seriously ill, um, that all changed. Like I was more aware of my emotions and much more uh, gentle with myself, much more, much more self care, much more support, which I didn't get at all from anybody when my mother was sick. But when my wife was sick, a lot more support, and it was a privilege and an honor to care for my wife, and I know she would do the same for me if the situation was reversed. And I'm not a deeply spiritual person, but I believe in the universe, and what you put out you get back. And it was how should I put it? What I know is that she really appreciated my. I know my mother appreciated it, but she couldn't express herself. But my wife, she really appreciated being there for her, and she really appreciated that I was not only her caregiver, but I was her husband first. I was always her husband first, and I had to remind myself of that I was her husband first, and that's very important to remember.
So first of all, Jeff, I want to say I'm really sorry for what happened with your mom. My condolence, right? And then your wife, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
Karens believe that creativity sustains the human spirit. It
Yes.
seems powerful. So how has that influenced your life?
Oh, every day I realize the power of it. When you create, you feel alive. That was her motto.
Mm,
And she was always like, I used to say, like, every minute she's busy doing something, she wasn't thinking about her circumstance. But what she really was doing was she was creating. She was taking pictures. We have a rabbit. She was playing with the rabbit. Um, she was working on the computer on her pictures, and she was always, whatever it was, she was always creating something new, and that was like her reason for living.
mm,
That was her reason for living, was creating, and it was beautiful to see her do that and not like dwell in the negative, and dwell in our circumstance. She was never like, she was nobody's victim. She didn't, you know what I mean? She was nobody's victim, and she didn't want anybody to feel sorry for her. And tomorrow actually would have been her 52nd birthday.
Wow. All right. I could say one can learn a lot from Karen, actually. Right.
Yeah.
Personally, I've learned just from the little you said, I've learned a lot. I mean, live life in the now, right? Create memories, live life,
Yes.
enjoy life, right? So I think that is
Yes.
what I can learn from her. Ooh, all right. So,
Enjoy it, live it.
enjoy. Right. And also, create happiness in the moment, no matter what it is that you're facing.
Yeah.
Create your happiness, right? Do not let your environment or your situation define you, right? You create
Right.
your own happiness, because I think that is what she did too. Yeah,
That's
totally.
that's what she taught me. Create your own happiness, and no matter what, you can always for the most part, you can always do something. You can always play checkers, or you can watch a
Mm,
movie, or you can talk about just create something new, and
mm,
be. I'm not saying be like Pollyanna. You know what I mean? Like false
mm,
happiness. I don't believe in
mm,
false happiness. I believe in like happiness that touches your spirit and your soul,
mm,
and be
genuine.
realistic. Be
Mm,
That's Karen and I were always realistic about things. Like we knew the future. We didn't dwell on it,
mm,
but we
mm,
always were hopeful.
mm. Oh, all right. So thank you, right, for sharing your story with us today. I would say it is tough, right? Like you said, you knew the future, but you did not dwell on it. It's tough, but
Yeah,
regardless, you still showed up in that ways, and you, like you said, you created genuine happiness, not fake happiness, right? So,
exactly,
still
exactly.
on, right, right. So still on the topic of caregiving, right? Most caregivers, they tend to forget themselves along the way, or should I say abandon themselves when
Very,
caring
very much
for,
so. Very much
right?
so.
So how, if you can, help us, how can one not abandon themselves as caregivers?
That's a great question, and it's something that I think about a lot, that I've thought about a lot. And it's not an easy answer, but just stay in touch with yourself spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally, and just feed your spirit as much as you can when you have time, and it's hard to forget. It's easy to put aside, like, oh, I'll do that later, or I don't have time, or I'm too busy. But it's so important to feed yourself. We there's an expression, like, fill your cup first so you can help your loved one. And I think that it's so important to be able to do that. You can't be an effective caregiver if you're not taking care of yourself. That's what I mean.
Mm. Right. So it's about taking care of ourselves so we can take care of others.
Yes, exactly.
Mm. Right. Okay. Fill your cup so you can fill other people's cup. All right. So
Exactly.
yes, thank you. All right, Jeff. So, I want us to talk about the future, basically, looking ahead, right? So, what
Yeah.
changes would you love to see in a society that supports caregiving?
I would like to see all societies from across the world really value and recognize the contribution that caregivers make in society. In our country, um, America, it's just, it's kind of like, I think it's still an assumed role. Like, oh, you're the caregiver. You kind of do your thing. you know, we'll support you. We have there's support everywhere these days with online internet, and some hospitals have, or healthcare institutions have support, but it's still not, I think, the level where it could be, because caregivers really make the, a lot of the world go round. They make things happen. They make things happen, and you know, um, it's funny. It's funny, strange. Like, we don't value caregivers as much as we should. We don't value them as much as we should. And it's like, like I said, it's kind of like an assumed role. It's like, oh, you're the loved one, you're the spouse, you're the husband, you're the wife. You must be the caregiver. You do the best you can, and we'll just do the rest. From the healthcare institutions. But I think it's so important that the healthcare institutions recognize the value of the caregiver, because without the caregiver, they the loved one would not be as healthy as they are.
Exactly. Oof. All right. And yes, before the end of this, I'm also gonna highlight the good side of caregiving, right? And the importance of caregivers, right? But before I do that, I would like to know, what are you currently building or working on that, excites you the most now?
Well, I'm working on promoting my work so I can make a
Mm,
difference in people's lives. I want to get the word out about, you know, caregivers are human beings. They deserve to be happy. They're human too. They deserve to be happy. Humans should, celebrate themselves and celebrate the power of joy. And who says you can't be a happy caregiver? Who says you can't
yeah.
experience joy as a caregiver?
Mm,
Who says you can't live a full life as a caregiver? Um,
mm,
I I want people to I want to arm people with, for lack of a better word, I want to provide people with information and knowledge so they can be kind of prepare themselves for the journey of caregiving. Who knows how
mm,
long where the journey will take you, how long it will last, where it will lead, but it's a worth it. It's a mindset journey as much as a physical and mental journey, because our mindset
exactly.
determines how it's going to go.
Mm, exactly. Right. And I would like to say shout outs to all caregivers out there. Conversations with Sekani. I and my listeners, we see you, right? We see you, we hear you,
Yes,
and I believe that later, I mean, in the nearest future, caregivers will be well spoken about. Even I believe it would improve, right? Because caregivers, they are very important in the society. Actually, they are really important in the society. They keep the workforce productive, right? Even the
yes,
healthcare, they keep it productive. The healthcare system, they keep it efficient, right? The economic value, I mean, they keep it high up there, right? So I just believe you guys are really, really amazing, honestly, and we should be talked about a lot. And I remember, like I mentioned earlier, I had a guest that was also a caregiver. He has a community, right, of caregivers. So
yes,
it
yes.
really opened my eyes to a whole lot. And yes, I would say shout out to all caregivers out there, basically. And yes, before I ask my final question, right, I would like to know when people remember your work years from now, right? What do you want them to remember about you? What do you hope they remember?
That I made a difference.
Mm,
That I made a difference. That I promoted caregivers to be seen, to be heard. They are not alone, and it is a worthwhile journey. It is a worth the caregiving journey for the caregiver is a worthwhile journey.
exactly. Oof. All right. It's a worthwhile journey. So yes, thank you, Jeff. This has been amazing, I would say. And finally, I want you to talk to someone out there, right? Specifically
Yeah,
younger adults. Because, you know, when you were younger, you took care of your mom. So there are
yeah,
people out there right now that are young caregivers and they
yeah.
don't know how to go about it, right? They're almost lost. So what
That
advice would you give to them, basically?
you are not alone.
Hmm.
You are not alone. Instead of like I at first when I was taking care of my mom, I was like a logistical thinker, like I got to figure this out. And then when I took care of my wife, I was more curious and creative, and I asked questions. So I would say like be curious about the situation and ask people questions, reach out, explore, and you know you don't. There's much more to be learned. There's much more to be learned. It's not, it's every caregiving experience is different, and you know, don't give up.
Don't
Don't give
give up.
up.
Exactly. That's the key word right there. Don't give up, no matter
Yeah,
what. And, you know, be inquisitive, like you said, just be inquisitive. And, I mean, eventually, as life goes on, you get better at it, basically.
yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
exactly. So, yes, thank you, Jeff. And this brings me to the final segment of my podcast. I call it the rapid fire segment, right? You could either
Yeah,
answer with a word or a phrase starting now. Would you prefer coffee or tea?
coffee, iced coffee.
Oh, okay. All right. So, are you a morning person or a night owl?
I'm a morning person.
Okay. So, what is a book that changed your life?
The one I wrote, The Intentional Caregiver, it really woke me up to what caregiving is really about and the power of caregiving.
Mm. The Intentional Caregiver
Yeah,
by Jack Drax. Right.
that's
Okay.
right.
Right. So, what is one thing that constantly brings you joy?
Nature.
Hmm.
Nature. We have a pet rabbit. Going for a walk. Just, you know, the simple things in life. Conversations.
Hmm. Okay. All right. And finally, right. So, what is one word that describes this season of your life?
Oh, that's a good one. Transition. Because my wife, passed away in September. So I'm transitioning into I'm like a butterfly, like a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly. I'm transitioning into a new stage of life, a new role, and new possibilities, and new beauty, right? So
Right.
transition.
Transition. Right. All right. So, yes, thank you, Jeff. This has been totally amazing. And finally, before you go, where can listeners get to learn more about you, connect with you, and also check out your book?
They can learn about me through social media. I'm on all the major platforms, TikTok and YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook, and but they can find me directly at geoffgrantconsulting.com, GeoffGrant consulting.com, and they can contact me and find out all my two books, Joy is Your Nature and The Intentional Caregiver, through my website, and they can contact me anytime.
All right. Yes, thank you, Jeff. This has been amazing. And I will put a link in the show notes so it's easily accessible for listeners. And to my listeners, I want to say thank you for listening or for joining in the conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this. And also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Once again, thank you, Jeff, and do have a wonderful day ahead of you.
You too.